Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer Maker, and today I am teaching you all about the tools, supplies, and accessories that you can use with your Cricut Maker cutting machine. This is the Cricut Kickoff Lesson 2, and we are going to go through all of these fun things together one by one. So in lesson 1 that we did yesterday, you saw that your basic Cricut Maker cutting machine comes with a few things beyond just the machine and the power cord and the USB cable. So in the box was a blue mat, this blue mat in fact, a black pen, a rotary blade, and some cardstock. I don't have my cardstock here. There's also a fine point blade, and that was in the Cricut Maker machine. But there's a lot more tools, supplies, and accessories. And understanding them and knowing when to use them, it goes a really long way toward making what you love with your Cricut. Now, before we get too far, I want to remind you about my free Cricut Kickoff Principal Handbook that goes along with these lessons. You can download it right now over at CricutKickoff.com. You just register for the class, registration is free, and you get the handbook. I'll be referring to it as we go along during today's lesson, and this is a great way for you to keep notes on all of your own blades and mats and everything. So please pull up a chair in my craft room and let's get started. We're going to begin with blades. And as I mentioned, you had a blade in your Cricut Maker. This is the box we had in our Cricut Maker when we unboxed it in lesson 1, right? So the fine point blade is there, and there was also a blade in here, right here. So let's talk about these blades. The blades are the things that cut, okay? All right, so let's begin with our blade. The Cricut Maker has a lot of different blades. It's the most versatile of all the Cricut cutting machines. Let me show you each one and explain what it's used for so that there's no confusion or overwhelm about it. Now, the basic all-purpose blade is the fine point blade that came already installed in your machine. The blade is made from German carbide steel and it's very sharp, so always handle it with care. This is the blade that you're going to use most of the time. Let's just take it out of the clamp here. It's either silver or gold. This one is silver. And this thick shank here is called the housing. And the blade itself pokes out of the end just like this. You'll use the fine point blade for cutting cardstock, vinyl, and really most materials. These are all of the blades that you can use. Now we're going to start with these simple ones here. These blades are actually also work in the Explorer, these ones down here. All right. So this one right here, this is a pink one. So the blade with the pink housing, remember the housing is the shank part right here. This is the bonded fabric blade. But here's the thing, even though it's specifically for bonded fabric, I don't think that there's any difference between it and the regular fine point blade. Other than the fact that it's pink, they're basically the same thing. Also, you have a rotary blade with the Cricut Maker, which I'll show you. You probably don't want this blade at all. You can use it, of course, if you want to, but the rotary blade will do a better job of cutting fabric. All right, so just know that chances are, as a Cricut Maker owner, this is not a blade that you need. And if you just have the urge to cut bonded fabric, this silver one will still do it. All right, the next blade is this one in the black housing. So again, the housing is what we call this thicker part here. So this is the deep cut blade and it lets you cut thicker materials. The deep cut blade has a steeper angle of 60 degrees and it's made of a harder, more durable steel. I personally use the deep cut blade to cut cardboard, chipboard, magnets, basswood, balsa wood, stiffened felt, and even foam sheets. And this, again, a lot of people are surprised that you would use this in the Maker instead of, let's say, the knife blade, which I will show you. I use this in my Maker all the time. This here, this little beauty here, is fairly new. So this is not so much of a blade as a tool. This is the foil transfer tool, and it comes with 3 interchangeable tips in fine, medium, and bold. The tip is right here. This is used to transfer Cricut's foil transfer sheets onto your projects. You can learn about foil transfer on my YouTube channel and on my blog if you're interested in it. But this basically does the transferring of the foil transfer sheets onto your cardstock or your faux leather or whatever you're using. Now, the one that came in your box, it looks like this, right? Let's take it out. It's a little rotary blade. See that? So let me tell you about this one. So this one has a gold gear on the top. This is a maker only tool, and it has a tiny rotary blade in it. And now when we have this gear, we call this the drive housing. And with the gear, your Cricut can rotate the blade in any direction necessary to make the most precise cuts. The rotary tool is used to cut delicate materials like fabric and tissue paper and crepe paper, and it does an amazing job. Let me show you a project that I cut with the Cricut rotary tool so you can see how really amazing it is. So this was cut on my Cricut with the rotary blade, and I want you to take a look at this lovely felt and how sharp it is. I'm gonna hold it up for you. There's like 2 layers here. So can you see this? Let's focus on it. Look at how sharp and clean those edges are. Let me turn it a little bit so you can see. See, that was cut. I have done nothing to this other than cut it. Well, I stacked it up together, obviously, but that was cut with the rotary blade on my Cricut Maker. This is just felt. I made a little ornament. This says 2020 because 2020, after 2020, I need a glass of wine. That was the motivation for this little ornament. I even made the little glass of wine a little face mask so I could remember this year. Anyways, okay, but this was, look at this tiny detail that I cut with the rotary blade on my Cricut Maker. Pretty cool, huh? So you can buy more of these maker tools. These gears are maker only tools. You can buy more of them with the gears too. Another really popular maker tool is the knife tool. Think of the knife tool as the polar opposite. So here's the gear and here's the point of the knife. So there we go. You can see that there, I think. All right, so this is the polar opposite from the rotary blade. The knife blade lets you cut thicker or denser materials like balsa wood, heavy chipboard, leather, craft foam, and more. It's very precise and it does a lovely job. I use this to make puzzles, leather binder covers, and thin wood projects. I have one to show you. This is actually Cricut leather in like a rose gold, and I cut this with the knife blade. Isn't that beautiful? Look at how it's really amazing. It's very sharp and very precise. And by the way, everything I show you is a project on my blog. So if you like this, you can make this. So yeah, this is my little, I don't know what I call it, some kind of notebook thing, binder cover, leather binder cover. I don't know. I think it's so pretty. This is one of my favorite projects. But this is the knife blade in genuine leather. This is real leather. Can you see how thick that is? This is not any faux leather wimpy stuff. This is the thick stuff. This is the adaptive tool system, and it is unique to the Cricut Maker. The adaptive tool system is a drive housing. Again, that means it has the gear on it, and it allows you to swap blades and tips without having to change the housing. What's cool about this, it means that Cricut can keep coming up with new tools for us, and all they have to do is swap them in with this housing. And they have totally done that. This year, 4 new tools were added to the quick swap housing. This is the machine tool organizer, by the way. This is Cricut's. So we need to find our single scoring wheel, which is right here. So here's the tip, and this is the scoring wheel. And it goes, you press down on the little plunger right here, like this, and then you can fit your tool onto it, and then it stays in place. And you can tell there's always like a little number on the tip so you can identify it. And you can see, hopefully, you can see that says, oh, it's a little bit too close. There we go. It says 1. Okay, so you can have a single score or a double score. There's a double one in here as well. And it says 2 on it. So the single score is used for Thinner materials, while the double score, which is this one right here, is used for thicker materials and specialty materials. The single score has the 1 on it, and the double score has a 2 on it. Right here like this. So these usually come together. Not always, but I think you can get them single or together. So those are our scoring tips. So see, it's super easy to take them out. Our next tip is the engraving tip, which I believe is number 41. The engraving tip is used to engrave acrylic, aluminum, leather, and soft metals. And you can identify it by the number 41 on the tip. Can we get that to show up for us? There it is. Now, and I have one to show you. And this is one of the things that we engraved with this tool. Isn't this pretty? So that was made with this tool. This is just acrylic, nothing special or fancy. This tool did that though. So the debossing tool adds detailed designs that are pressed into your cardstock with a tiny little roller ball. And this is good for making pretty cards and gift boxes. And yes, you can identify it with the number at the bottom, and it is number 21. I just checked. This is the perforation tool. Okay. And I'll hold this up so you can see it. See that number on there? There we go. You can kind of see it. All right. So the perforation tool helps you create tear-offs and easy peel-away crafts with cardstock, acetate, poster board, that sort of thing. It's got little teeth in the bottom. Can you see the little teeth? That will cut your material in intervals. And it's got the number 11 printed at the tip. There's another one. And these are, they're fun for if you need a project. And it's the wavy tool one. I don't see that one in here, so maybe that one is missing. But I'll tell you about it. So the wavy blade tool creates a fun wavy edge on a variety of materials. So I used it to make my felt sunflowers. If you go check that up on my blog, you'll see it. And it just basically made the edge wavy, and it's just a cool effect. It's not the most profound tool ever, but it's still fun if you like to just have like a wavy edge on something. And that is number 31. Now, it's important to note that any blade that fits into the Explorer will also fit into the Maker, but the Maker cannot use Cricut Joy blades. It's also important to know that you can get replacement blades for ones that have blades. You know, not all of these do, but really one blade can last you a long time if you keep it clean. If you do get replacements for things like the fine point blade, so your silver one, they can be identified out of their package by the color of their caps. You want red or white. Do not use gray caps. Those are made for the older Cricut machines like the Expression, and they are too long for the Cricut Maker. You want the German carbide blades, and if you get the wrong one, it'll end up cutting too deep. So if you're ever having something that's cutting too deep, check your blade. You might have gotten the wrong blade. That's a really important thing. Now remember that you can use the accessory tray in your Cricut Maker. This is right here is the blade storage compartment. There's a magnetic strip in this compartment that keeps the blades from rolling around in there. Eventually you're going to have too many blades for the accessory compartment, and they're going to be moving around. So, or you decide to put something else in there. I won't say it's candy this time. We all know that some people do it. Anyways, you might need a different storage method. So what I personally use is this tool holder that Greg designed for me and printed on his Prusa 3D printer. I have the free files for anyone who wants to make it on their 3D printer as well. You can use it for personal use. If you don't have a 3D printer, Cricut makes their machine tool organizer that is pretty nifty. So it's got this cover, right? And your tools, they're just sitting here. So they're really easy to get in and out. I like that. And you can lift up your tools, all stay in spot. It locks. And here's all of your tip storage. So this is a particularly good tool for a Cricut Maker owner, right? Now, if you are curious about mine actually also has pen storage on the sides in a little drawer that he made me. And I have my little replacement blade that I never use because I keep my blades clean and I don't have to. But these fit all of the tools, so I just have to show it off. No, we don't sell these. People ask us, but we don't. It fits all of these types, the regular housing and the drive housing. And these here are all the little nubs for all of your tips, and they fit right onto there like that. And then all of this storage back here for all of my tools. That's why I love this one. It's amazeballs. That's what it is. Let's talk about mats. So mats are adhesive covered mats that keep our materials in place while we cut them on the Cricut. This is the one from last night. They have these plastic covers on them. Now I call these machine mats to distinguish them from other mats like self-healing mats, which I'm going to talk to you about a little later. Now there was one machine mat in your box, and we used it in lesson 1 to cut our sunflower, which you can maybe kind of see here. It matches the mat, so it's hard to see. The blue light grip mat is the least sticky of all of them, and it's best for light and medium weight paper, medium cardstock, and vinyl. Now there are 3 other machine mats to choose from. There is the green standard grip mat. Let me put these over here. The green mat is a little stickier than the blue mat, and it's better for vinyl, heavy cardstock, poster board, and more. The green mat is the one that I use most of the time. Then we have the purple mat. This is the strong grip mat, and it is the most sticky mat. This is the mat for use with heavyweight materials like mat board, basswood, balsa wood, that sort of thing. And then finally, we have the pink fabric grip mat. This is got a special adhesive on it that is specially made for gripping fabrics. It also releases your fabric more cleanly. And if you compare it, it's a little bit thicker. It's a little bit thicker than the other mats are. It's a little bit, because you're using the rotary blade with this one almost always. All right, so all the mats come in the standard 12 by 12 mat, just like the one that came in your box. So this is the one that came in your box right here. They also come in a longer size, like this one, which is 12 by 24 inches. So most of the time you're going to use the 12 by 12 size, but occasionally you're going to want the 12 by 24 size for bigger projects. It's just going to depend on what you're doing. Now, you might say, well, why don't I just go get the big size and only worry about that? The big one is unwieldy. Most of the time, you're going to be happier with a 12 by 12. And you already got one in your box anyway, so I recommend you just get this if you need it. Now, I consider mats to be a consumable material, which means that they're not going to last a lifetime. They're going to need to be replaced over time because they're going to get less sticky. But you can keep them going for quite a long time by cleaning them with wet wipes. When you notice they're not getting sticky enough, you can just wipe down the surface, let it dry, and you'll discover that they're sticky again. And I think I mentioned yesterday, but just in case I didn't, mats can be used from either end. So you can put this side into the machine, or you can put this side through. Not the left or the right, but the top and the bottom, so you can put your project here, which we did last night, or we could have put it down here in the corner. Right? So that helps you when it comes to extending the life of your mats, is having the ability to kind of rotate it 180 degrees, because what you'll discover is that your mat loses its stick in this section first, the one that you're using the most. And when that happens, just rotate it around and start putting it up here. You can actually move materials around your mat, but that's something a little bit more advanced, and we'll talk about that maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Okay, so, and then of course, this is adhesive, and this part is sticky in the grid lines, but this part along the edge is not. All right, that's the way it should be. So your material always needs to be inside the grid lines to stay put and not get caught under the rollers. Okay. But that is important. So the Cricut Maker pens are great for writing on cards and making labels and embellishing paper crafts and all sorts of fun things. The pens are water-based, acid-free, non-toxic, and they're permanent after they dry. And it's important to note that the Cricut Maker and Cricut Explorer pens are sized only for the Cricut Maker's clamp. You cannot use them in a Cricut Joy, and you can't use the Joy pens in the Maker. They're not interchangeable, right? but you can do Explorer and Maker are the same. They have the same clamp size. So when you get pens, make sure they say they're for the Explorer or Maker, or they don't say they're for the Joy. Okay. Now you got a fine point pen with in the 0.4 size tip in your box. But there are so many other pens and markers. Of course, there's lots of colors that you can get, but there's also extra fine points, and there's gels, and there's markers, and there's really cool colors, and glitter gels, and milky urban rainbow gel pen set. There's a ton of them. There are even infusible ink pens. So this is the infusible ink. These actually are all infusible ink. I'm going to tell you what infusible ink is in a little bit, but there's a lot of pens. And so these are heat activated pens. These are regular pens. That's just one thing to know. So don't go get an infusible ink if you don't actually intend to use it as infusible ink. It won't set, right? It won't become permanent when dry. It needs to, it's heat set instead. So if you are interested in using pens, and we will be using our pen tomorrow in our craft that we're going to do when we work through Design Space. I really like this set here. Let me show it to you up close. So this is called the multi-pen set, and it is available in a variety of colors. You can get it in black, silver, and gold, I believe. And I really like it for beginners because if you look at, see, it has a variety of different sizes. So it lets you try out the sizes and see what you like best. And this down here, these three are chisel point for calligraphy. It actually tells you on the back what each one is. So here's the size and everything. So these are really cool. I actually have a tutorial that uses these if you're interested in figuring out how they work and all that. It's on my blog. So lots and lots of pens to choose from. And let me show you real quick where they go in your machines. There's 2 clamps, remember, in your Maker. The one that we've been using is clamp B. That's where your blade always goes. But your pen goes into clamp A, which is this clamp right here. So you just open up the clamp, you take off the cap. There's a little arrow on the pen. Do you see that right there? So you want to put the pen in until the arrow like touches the little clamp. I'm gonna just lift up. We want it to, there we go. It usually will click, not always, but you can usually tell when it's in there. And then we close the clamp. And this is important. These little caps, super easy to lose your caps, right? So put your cap on your pen so you don't lose it. It doesn't roll off the table onto the floor and then it's gone forever. And then you can use it. And that's it. That's all there is to using a pen. Now, I suggest that when you are storing your pens, that you put them into like your, wherever you're going to store them. You could put them here, for example. You put them in tip down in your accessory tray or whatever organizer you're using so that the ink is always ready to flow, right? So don't store them like this. Store them like this. Ta-da! All right, so let's talk about tools. There's a lot of tools that you can buy for your Cricut Maker. Some are useful, some are less so. The ones that I recommend you get, the ones that I personally use all the time are the scraper tool, the weeding tool, and the scoring tool. One of the scoring tools. Usually it's the scoring stylus. It really is. Okay, so let's go through each of those together. So the scraper tool. This is the big one, and this is the little one. These are the scraper tools. All right. So the scraper tool is great for getting the materials off your mat, all those little bits that are left over. If you don't want to get a scraper tool, you can use a store loyalty card. We'll use the small one. I actually like the big one the best, but this one, is one that most people have, so we'll use this one. All you do is you just press, to press super hard, just lightly enough so that it gets under the material and scrapes it off just like this. So much faster and easier than trying to pick off each little part. And then, of course, you put your cover back on your mat. Let's do that right now. And that, my friends, is the amazing scraper tool. I would not want to cut without this tool. When I can't find it because I've lost it, I actually have quite a few because I lose them. Instead, I use, where is it? Here it is. I will use something like this. This will also work. I don't think it's quite as good. I like this point is a little sharper to get it off, but a store loyalty card or, you know, your Starbucks card, expired credit card, whatever, will also do the trick. Okay. So very useful to know so that you're not picking off every little thing, and you can hurt your, you know, those little pieces of paper. These little things can get under your fingernail and they will hurt. So this here is the weeding tool. Can you see that? With a little hook point, it kind of reminds me of like a dental tool or something. The weeding tool is used to remove the excess vinyl from a cut. And when we do that, we call that weeding. Hence weeding tool. And this is how you get all of those little bits that you don't want out of your design. I also use the weeding tool when I want to get little bits out of paper craft projects as well as vinyl projects. So this is very, very useful to have, and I highly recommend that you get one. Right? So just a little point on the end. So this is the scoring stylus. All right, the scoring, and now I've already told you that we have we had the scoring tool, right? So one of our tools is the single and the double wheel, whatever they call it, tool, scoring tool. I can't think of the proper name for it, but one of the adaptive tool system tools is for scoring. So I want to explain the difference and why you would use one over the other. So basically, if I use the scoring stylus instead of the scoring tool, I can put this into clamp A, the same clamp as my pen, and I can have my other blade in clamp B, and that means I can cut and score at the same time without having to change any tools. So if I'm feeling lazy or in a hurry or just don't want to change the tool, I will use the scoring stylus. Now the scoring tool, which is one of the ones in here, I'm not going to get it out. The reason why you would want to use this one instead of the scoring stylus is honestly because it will do a deeper score, a better score. So if you're doing a project that requires a nice deep score that's really good, use your tool. There's more pressure. The Maker has 10 times more pressure. The gear is giving us the ability to turn, and it puts more pressure onto the paper. But you can totally use this too. And I actually honestly use this more than I use my scoring tool. Believe it or not. So the spatula tool, it's sort of misunderstood, I think. But let me tell you about that, because some people love the tool and some people don't. It's you know, it's got, so this is the spatula tool. See, it looks like a little spatula on the end. It's just got this right here. Basically the spatula tool is used for removing materials from your mats, right? So you can see how you just get in there and lift it up. I don't personally use it very often, but it is really useful if you have a lot of really small pieces of cardstock that you need to remove from your mat without damaging them, because the scraper tool will damage them when it takes it off. Okay. All right. So spatula tool. This kit here, it has the spatula in it. So this has this scraper tool, and it has the weeding tool, and there's the spatula tool. This, by the way, is a tweezer, which I don't use very often, so I'm not even mentioning that. And then, of course, it's a pair of scissors. Now, scissors are always good to have, but chances are you already got a pair of scissors. So if you want this, it is very cute. You could get 3 good tools and 2, tools that you'll probably use but aren't necessary. Just being honest again. Okay. So another tool that some people love, some people don't have any use for, is the brayer tool. That's what this one is here. So I consider it an optional tool, but I want you to know about it. So it's basically just a big rubber roller that helps you stick your stuff down to your mat for cleaner cuts. Cricut says it's intended for fabric, but honestly, people use it for vinyl and cardstock too. So if you have issues getting your material onto your mat smoothly, for smooth and clean cuts, you may find a brayer useful, because you can just kind of roll it all down. So another tool that I think is really handy is the True Control craft knife. This has a special razor sharp non-stick blade. You saw me use it when I opened the Cricut Maker box in lesson 1 and all those seals, right? So craft knives are used for doing manual cuts. And sometimes, like, for example, that might mean a project that cut almost all the way through, but it's hanging by a tiny little thread. maybe because you designed it weirdly or something, you can easily cut it with this craft knife. This one I have special. It's not just the True Control knife, but rather it's a 4-in-1 tool where I can change the tip to add on special weeding tools. And there's 4 tips in all. Let me show you. This is called the True Control Weeding Kit. So it's still the True Control blade, right? Which is this, but it comes with these other tips. So you normally change the blades by pushing in, and then you can take the blade out. But in this case, with this kit, you can actually put the blade right into the little plastic holder here, and it snaps in, and then you press the end and it snaps off. So there's no accidentally cutting yourself or anything like that. And then you can switch to one of these other tools, like this weeder tool. There we go. And I get it out. There we go. And then I can weed with it. Is that cool or what? So this is the True Control weeding kit. If you use the True Control knife, you're going to want a self-healing mat, which I have here. So it's like this one. This is one of Cricut's. Now, this is not an adhesive mat. It's not the kind that you put into your Cricut. Rather, this is a thick mat. You can see how thick it is. And you use this to cut things with your craft knife. And this is a self-healing mat, which means it's made from separate little pieces of material which are pressed together to create a solid surface. But when you cut on it, the blade goes between those little pieces, and this separates them rather than cuts into the surface of your mat and thus destroying it. That's why we call it self-healing. I always craft on one of these mats. Usually the really big one, and it's blue. If you've seen my videos, you've seen me using it. I also find it's much easier to keep this self-healing mat clean than my normal work surface, like, you know, this piece, this craft paper that you see here. While I can change this paper out easily, I have a big roll of it and I'll just kind of replace it when I need to. Like if I get adhesive on it, this is not cleaning. If I get adhesive on this, I can clean it with alcohol. So it's very useful. So I'm a big believer in craft knives and self-healing mats. All right, so this is the Cricut carrying case. Fits the Maker and the Explorer. It's got one of those telescoping handles so you can wheel it around. The wheels are not on it right now because we were afraid it would be rolling all over the place. There's pockets in the back. I know you can't see them, but there are pockets in the back. And it opens just like this. There's storage up here, little clear zipper bags, and a little pouch. What's in here? I obviously don't use this. Oh, it's a thing to keep your stuff in. So it's like, you know, like in a suitcase, a little strap. This is really big. It's got these zippers here in the front that kind of falls open. There's more storage right here. There's a divider here. Yeah, super cool. So, and it's pretty cool actually. So if you're into carrying cases, there's actually a lot of options out there. I don't know them all too well since I don't use a carrying case, but I thought I'd show you this one since I have it. All right, I want to show you 2 more unusual tools. No, 3. I have 3 more things. Okay, so the first is this pair of magnifying glasses. These are so useful when I'm crafting, especially weeding. I find it difficult to see the little lines. I have 52-year-old eyes and they don't see up close well at all anymore. So these are so helpful. There's a little light here as well. The top, right? Super useful. So you can change the magnification here. They fit on over glasses, really useful. You can like even kind of move them out like this, see? So these are very useful for weeding and doing any kind of small crafts. If you have any issues, you know, with whatever it is, the thing where I cannot, like if I hold it up too close to my face, like I can't see it, right? So these make a big difference. This is what I call a weeding ring. The company calls it a nail polish bottle holder. It just goes onto your fingers like this. It's just silicone, it's very soft. And when you're weeding a project, you go on away to pick up a piece and you can put it right into your little weeding ring. It comes right off of your little point because of these little silicone star things, and you can go right back to it so that your little bits of adhesive vinyl are not floating around your surface, getting into trouble and causing a problem with your project. So I really like this. So basically it's used for your vinyl scraps while you're weeding, and it's called Tweaksy. The last thing I want to show you is good old-fashioned Reynolds wrap. This is one of my best tools because I use a sheet of this to create this tool. This is an aluminum foil ball, and I use it to clean my blades. Specifically, the blade that I use all the time, our all-purpose go-to blade, the fine point blade. And all I do is just press down on the plunger, and I just poke it into the aluminum foil ball. And what this does is it cleans my blade, gets rid of all those little bits of glitter, cardstock, whatever you were doing. It cleans it off of this blade. It also removes the oxidation that will happen over time to metal. And the next time you go to cut, it's going to cut like butter. I'm not even kidding you. This is one of my best secrets to getting my really clean cuts that you see me do in my tutorials. Maybe you've seen them, maybe you haven't, but this is just aluminum foil. Always be careful, of course, that end is very sharp. Don't poke yourself. Pay attention to what you're doing. But I just poke it in and out there like 50 times, and then I just put it back in my machine, and my cuts are beautiful. And because of this, I haven't had to buy a new blade or replace it in over a year. This is CricutKickoff.com. So if you want to go sign up and get the handbook, this is where you go. But if you go to this link, jennifermaker.com/Cricut discount, and that is right here. Okay, so if you go here, first of all, this is where my discount code for Cricut is, and it saves you 10% off of supplies, materials, accessories, anything without a cord basically, plus free shipping. You have to spend at least $50. I forgot that part. I need to update the page to say that. If it's at least $50, you save 10% off. My code is right here. My code changes. So instead of just giving you my code, I wanted to give you this link. Okay, so go to the link so you get the proper code. The code changes. All right, but if you scroll down here, I have the links to the 3 things I just showed you. So there's my magnifier glasses, there's the weeding ring, and there's the foil ball. And they're all on Amazon. If you click this orange button, it takes you to like a little shopping list that shows you the aluminum foil, the weeding ring, and in this case, they're actually weeding with it. And this is the magnifying glasses. All right, so we need to talk about materials. The first material that I recommend any Cricut beginner start with is cardstock. And fortuitously, that is what Cricut puts into our box with our Cricut Maker, is a piece of cardstock. I think paper craft projects are easier than vinyl crafts. Now, I totally get that you might have gotten your Cricut because you want to put vinyl on something. I saw someone today say they got a Cricut specifically to put vinyl on glass bottles. That sounds awesome. But I really, really recommend that you start with a simple paper craft project because it's just more likely to be successful, and that's going to increase your confidence and you're feeling like you can do that, which is, I think, a big part of all of this. All right, so cardstock. So Cricut sells cardstock. Not surprising. So this is some cardstock. So this is one of their pattern cardstocks. They also have solid ones. This one is double-sided. It's got like pretty florals on one side and a blue stripe on the other. There's tons of different like patterns and stuff. This is one of my favorite brands. This is Recollections. You can get it on Amazon, but you can also get it at Michael's. And it's good quality cardstock, 65-pound, great for basically all of our cardstock projects. So this one is a variety of colors, and this one is textured. You'll see that this one's 12 by 12. This one is 8.5 by 11. Which size you use will depend on your project and, a lot of factors. And it's project to project. There's no one cardstock that is best for everything. So after cardstock, people will usually try vinyl, which is what we have right here. So this here is permanent glossy. Permanent vinyl is used for things like the glass project I mentioned. It's used for signs. It's used for anything that you want your vinyl to stay there for as long as possible, generally speaking, right? So permanent. On the other hand, we have removable. So here's removable. You'll note, first of all, one thing I think is significant is usually permanent is glossy and usually removable is matte. Not always, you can definitely find them in the other ways, but for whatever reason, this is the way they usually come. Removable vinyl is used for any surface that you don't want to be damaged when you remove it. All right, so technically you can always remove the permanent stuff, right? With a little elbow grease, you can always get it off. It might take a while and some solvents or something, but you can get it off. But you will probably damage, like if you put it on a wall, you would definitely be taking out drywall. Don't do that. If you want to put it on your wall or any kind of surface like your refrigerator or an appliance where you don't want the paint peeling off too, use removable vinyl. All right, so those are the two big ones. But you can not, besides these solid colors, you can get it in things like patterns. So here is a pretty pattern called Party Time pastel sampler. So see just some pretty pastel colors, like it's like confetti and some polka dots. There's lots of options. I'm not going to go through all of them. Just a few. This is permanent glossy textured metallic copper. Isn't this just luscious? I love copper. So this is really pretty. I use this in a project for my family birthday project. I use this. It was so pretty. But I want to talk about how you get them onto your projects, because whenever we use an adhesive vinyl, you need to use a transfer tape to transfer your cut design onto your project. For these three, you would use this type of transfer tape. This is the standard grip transfer tape. You don't want the one that is purple. This one here is called strong grip transfer tape. This one is used for things like this vinyl, this textured vinyl. It's harder to pick up. This strong grip transfer tape is used for things like glitter vinyl and this textured vinyl, any stubborn vinyl that has something about it that's going to make it hard to stick to the transfer tape. These solid ones here are going to be just fine with your standard grip transfer tape. So that's very important when you're at the store trying to decide what to get. All right, so these two here are different. This one right here is window cling. It's not adhesive at all. It is just like a plastic film that will stick to a window. That's it. That's all it does. It's very cool. So you use it for like your snowflakes in the winter, your pumpkins in the fall, whatever decorations you want. So it's very pretty. I love it. And it sticks there. And when I want to remove it, I just peel it right off. And by the way, you can reposition it. So window cling is very cool. It comes in a few colors: white, black, red, orange, and yellow, I think. That's just from memory though. And this here is stencil vinyl. We use it when we're making stencils. So it's honestly, it's pretty similar to permanent vinyl, but it's intended to be removed. Stencils are one-time use because, you know, you're not going to get be able to use it more than once unless it's a very simple design, then it's possible. So this is stencil vinyl with the blue and the grid on it. Okay, don't confuse this with transfer tape. So up here, I have some iron-on vinyls. Let's pull them off so you can look at them. So iron-on vinyl it has adhesive on it, but it's heat-activated adhesive. So Cricut calls it iron-on vinyl. Other companies will call it heat transfer vinyl. It's the same thing. So here we have express iron-on. This goes on a little faster than the regular stuff. So variety of colors. Here's a very pretty foil iron-on. Here is glitter iron-on. And here is an iron-on mesh. So there's more. There's a lot more choices. These are just a few that I pulled off my shelf to show you. Now, it's important to note that each of these will have a little different temperature setting when you apply it. A little different. You will use it a little differently. This is a great, and there's a whole video that goes along with it. It shows you how to do iron-on vinyl from start to finish very simply, right? So that you can start and get a successful project at the very beginning, which I think is very important when we're learning a new skill, is to like go in baby steps and not go for the big, giant, amazing project, but instead be successful at something smaller and work our way up. And now here at the top, we have Infusible ink. So infusible ink may not be familiar to many people, which is not surprising. So basically it's Cricut's version of sublimation ink paper. Sublimation ink is a way of transferring ink from a surface, so in this case it's paper, into a material that's appropriate for it. So this is infusible ink, and let me show you what's interesting about this. This is completely smooth. So if you're at all familiar with iron-on vinyl, you would know that normally there is like you can feel it, there's like a little edge to it. But when you use infusible ink, the ink just goes right into the material, and it's like there's nothing there. I mean, basically you've dyed your fabric or whatever you're putting it on. You don't have to use, it doesn't have to go on fabric. Cricut makes a bunch of blanks that you can use. The tote bag, they make a lot of shirts. This is a baby bodysuit, and they make things like coasters. They make round ones and they make these square ones. What's important with infusible ink is that you use something that's compatible with it. So it either needs to be a Cricut infusible ink product, or it needs to be one that is treated. So you can't just go get a coaster and use it. It's got to have a treated treatment on it to accept the ink. Or it needs to have a high polyester count, like 75% or higher. Otherwise, it'll just wash out when you go to wash it. It also won't transfer very well. And then of course, when we do infusible ink and iron-on vinyl, we need things like a heating device, and this is a Cricut Easy Press. I have my other one here too. There's actually 4 different sizes. These are the 2 smallest ones. This is the mini one, and this is the 6x7 one. There's also a 9x9 and a 10x12. And what's cool about the Cricut Easy Presses versus, let's say, a household iron, which you can use for the iron-on vinyl, is that look at the surface. It's so much bigger than an iron. It's flat. There's no holes there for steam, because those holes can like cause uneven heating. And it's just a lot easier to press down and actually put some pressure on it. And the Easy Press also has, like, you can set the temperature, you can get just the right temperature for whatever vinyl or infusible ink you're using. There's a timer as well. So, and the mini is really good for small projects, or like shoes, things that stuffed animals, that kind of thing, where it would be hard to use like a bigger tool. You would use the little one. Your Cricut Maker can cut over 300 materials, like a lot of stuff. So it can do more than the other Cricut machines can. One of the things so it does basswood, balsa wood, it does leather, it does crepe paper, tissue paper, which are very delicate and you can't do with the other Cricuts. One of the things that it does that the other ones don't do, heavy chipboard. So this stuff is almost like wood. It's not, it's fibers that have been glued together. It's chipboard, but this is really sturdy. You can make a lot of things with chipboard that will last a long time. I have a whole tool holder I've made with this, lots of things. So this can only be cut on the Cricut Maker, along with a bunch of other things. So this is faux suede. Here is basswood. Here we've got some natural wood veneer. Now you can cut some of these on the Explore too, of course, but they're going to cut better on the Maker because of the knife tool or the rotary tool if you're doing fabric. So this is the foil so this is the fine tip, the medium tip, and the bold tip. And this is the tool right here. So this is just a piece of black cardstock, by the way. Cricut cardstock, I think, because see, I used the black side of it. It was two-sided. So that's another example of something that you can do. All right, so one of the things a lot of people think they really need to get in the beginning are replacement fine point blades for our basic all-purpose blades. Don't get them. Use my aluminum foil ball trick to keep your blades sharp and clean. All right, second, you do not need to get every color and type of cardstock or vinyl. This is a lot. You don't go out and get all the things. I recommend you buy your supplies on a project by project basis to avoid stockpiling, because stockpiling is expensive and it's overwhelming and it can cause you to not craft. Okay. And third, you don't need to try all the different types of things at once. That's very overwhelming. Again, pick one thing. I recommend a paper craft, do it, finish it, and then try a new thing. think it's really important to stay focused for success. I am a big advocate of staying, of not being a craft supply or tool collector, but rather getting what you need for what you want to make, making it. And then of course you're probably going to have leftovers, and eventually, over time, you do get a collection of things. And hopefully it's usually just your tools more than your materials. But when we have too many materials, it can paralyze us. It also is a storage issue. I've known many people who just can't craft at all because they have so many things. There's no room to actually craft. So this is something that, as a Cricut beginner, and you seeing all of these things here, I want you to really understand that it's important to just get what you need as you need it and go one step at a time, rather than going to the store and being like, oh yeah, I need to buy all these things because Jennifer told me about all these things. Don't do that, please. What I'm trying to do is give you an introduction to these things so that when you see someone talking about it in my Facebook group, or you see a tutorial, you have an understanding of what that thing is and whether it interests you or not. And that's basically it. All right. If you've got any questions about the tools, accessories, and supplies used for the Cricut Maker, please let me know. Leave your question below this video or ask over in our Cricut Crafters group at jennifermaker.com/CricutCrafters, where you can get help and advice and guidance and inspiration from hundreds of thousands of Cricut crafters just like you. And if you want to also learn about the tools for the Cricut Joy and the Cricut Explore, because they are quite different, I have lessons on those cutting machines as well. Get links to those classes at CricutKickoff.com. Now tomorrow I'll be back for lesson 3 when we dive into design space on my computer, as well as an iPad and an Android tablet. I'm going to show you all the important things that you can do, and then we will do a simple and fun project together using basic cardstock and the pen that came in your Cricut Maker box. So it's going to be really cool, I promise. So until our next class, this is Jennifer Maker reminding you to craft the life you love.